It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to be kicking off the show today talking the economy. Nigerians woke up about, I think, a couple of days ago, looking at news about the president requesting the National Assembly to approve more loans for government expenditure. I think about $4 billion and about 700 million euros was put forward to the National Assembly for approval. And it's got a lot of people worried because there's been talk about, the debt figures that this government has acquired. We've grown our debt from about 12.1 trillion naira in 2015 to over 33 trillion naira today. And I think a lot of the worry for a lot of people is, where is this money being spent? And why are we owing so much? I think the last time we heard about how much each Nigerian owes, I think it's about 160,000 naira per Nigerian. We're going to be joined today by people who would help us understand why this is happening and if there's a way out of it. Dumebi Iyeke and Dotsun Mabinori are here with us. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you, Dumebi. You owe 160,000 naira on behalf of Nigeria. But it's also very worrying for a lot of people. Why is this extra borrowing now still necessary?
As the federal government there are a lot of expenditures expected to take place. They have capital expenditures, they have projects, and they also have recurrent expenditure. In the real sense, when we look at the general economy, excessive borrowing is highly unnecessary. And this doesn't mean that borrowing in itself is a bad thing. But if you're borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure or administrative expenses, that's where the problem is. Now, we've seen a lot of government borrowing, and now government borrowing in its sense is not only external borrowing. Now, we're also looking at domestic borrowing. The federal government is also borrowing from the CBN, and that's why we talk about ways and means. Now, the federal government is doing this, but the problem is that all of these borrowings are going into recurrent expenditure. And so there is no, it's not exactly boosting output, because when you borrow money for capital expenditure, maybe for government projects, like probably a rail project or to finance a particular sector, when you do that, you are stimulating output in that particular sector. And then in its sense, it will boost productivity and increase revenue for the government. But right now, we're not seeing all of that. And that's why the government is in this constant loop of borrowing, because when you borrow money, you're not using it for other things that could generate more money for you, that would service that debt, and then you have more money to finance other things. So that's where the problem is. And even if borrowing itself is not exactly bad, but when you borrow for recurrent expenditure, that's where the problem is.
So a lot of people have blamed, especially government, have blamed COVID and the pandemic for the way things have gone with the economy, But the worry is, even before the pandemic, the borrowing issue was already there. Like I said, in 2015, I think our debts was about 12.1 trillion. By 2019, before the pandemic, we had hit 27 trillion. So that was already an upward trend we could see. Is this a problem of the fact that we are not generating enough income in Nigeria? Because we've talked a lot about diversifying the economy. Yes, oil prices went down. But does this mean government's plan to diversify the economy hasn't worked at all? Or are we just needing to spend more to grow the economy? I don't know.
I mean, it's one thing for us to look at, okay, we're borrowing to do this, we're borrowing to do that. It's another thing to also say, what impact is this having on the economy? So clearly, you're very right about the fact that borrowing has been increasing on a very astronomical level. And like I mentioned before, this is because we're not borrowing for capital expenditure that is expected to stimulate output growth. It's very worrisome because now we're not only looking at the government borrowing, we're looking at what they're borrowing for and the mode of implementation. So the government is borrowing to fund administrative expenses, not capital expenditure. That's exactly where the problem is. And I'm reiterating that because no matter how much money we say, okay, we're taking off maybe externally or from the domestic market. The issue is where the money is being pumped into, and that's why we're seeing a pushback on these borrowings. And not only that, we've seen over the years that the trend of each passing government that comes into administration, every government comes with its own agenda, so to say. They all come with their own agenda. So if, let's say, this particular administration is coming and say, okay, no, we're going to clear all our debt, we're going to reduce borrowing, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. By the time the next government comes in, rather than have a sustained have a sustainability plan, or saying, okay, leveraging on what this past administration has done, each government is coming with its own agenda and its own initiative. And then to fund all of this, they resort to external borrowing rather than saying, okay, we've done this. Where are we now? How can we focus more on the local industries? How can we boost the manufacturing sector, the agri sector, the trade sector, because those are sectors that are job elastic, that will continue to increase output and productivity regardless of the investment, or depending on how much investment you put in those particular sectors. So rather than leverage on what each past administration has done, every administration is coming with its own agenda. There is no sustainability plan. There is no follow through. And so by the time they come in with this huge projects, they're not able to fund it, so that's where the problem is generally. And it's going to keep, the problem is that, or the truth is, it's going to keep going this way if we're not able to go back to the drawing board to leverage on the sectors that can boost productivity and significantly reduce government borrowing. The talk on revenue diversification has always been there, but now is the time to implement it. The COVID-19 really exposed so many loopholes in government revenue. Yes, oil prices have bounced back, but Nigeria gains more from higher oil production than oil prices. So even if oil prices hit about $100 per barrel today, Nigeria's break-even point for the economy to bounce back is about $132 per barrel, and that's unlikely to happen anytime soon.
Dotun, I think the bigger picture is even scarier for a lot of people, talking about the economy as a whole, with the scary numbers of borrowing and debt that we see, but the economy as a whole seems to be in tatters. We look at the naira today, is about 543 or so. I'm not sure what it is today, because it looks like it adds 10, 15 naira every day. Unemployment numbers are ridiculous. How did we get here?
Thank you for having me, Rika. And I will start by saying we didn't get here overnight, but the problems have always been there, just that the past administration was really tried to manage them. And when this administration came in, we saw that there is a huge lacuna in terms of the economic management plan. There are so many things that should have been done that are not done. There are so many things that have not been done that they are doing. For instance, in the case of foreign exchange, that is getting, that our naira that is depreciating on a daily basis. There are things that government shouldn't have done before now that they are doing. One is we should have created an environment for what they call foreign direct investment and then foreign portfolio investment. That's FDI and FPI. And then little things scare people away. Remember, not too long into this administration, JP Morgan left the economy, and that sent a very wrong signal to other investors that are trying to bring in their investment into the economy. So when there is no inflow of dollar, then it becomes a problem. Getting enough dollars to pushing, getting enough because the bigger problem we have in terms of our dollar falling naira is short what they call supply shock. We don't have enough dollar around to meet up the daily demand and the daily demand for dollar. And you know what there's just a lot of demand and supply. When demand exceeds supply, the price will go up. So we need this injection of dollar into the economy. That's why government keeps borrowing and keeps doing this on the daily basis. And the implication that to a layman on the road, let me explain the implication of this dollar, because even on our debt profile. Let's assume we are taking 1 million, just $1 million from IMF, from one international organization. They are lending us $1 million. And let's assume that when we are taking it, exchange rate was 200 naira to $1. So that means we are injecting 200 because we don't spend dollar in our economy. It's an illegal tender in Nigeria. We spend our own naira. So we're better borrowing in foreign currency. So borrowing $1 million, for instance, means we're injecting 200 million naira in our economy. Now let's now assume over within the space of 6 months or 1 year, our naira then depreciated. Then we have from 400 naira, from 100 naira to say 400 naira. So naira is now 400 naira. Now let's now assume that you want to return this money after 1 year. So Ebuka, in 1 year, will be paying twice what you borrowed. You borrowed 200 million. Now you are paying back 400 million because you need to get 100 because people lend you $1 million. You have to pay them the $1 million back. Let's even leave the interest. So for you to pay back means you have to look for 400 million naira Nigerian currency, convert it to just $1 million that you borrowed and returned. You actually borrowed 200 million, but you are paying back 400 million. That is the implication. Now imagine this when government is now borrowing $6 billion, $10 billion. So just do the ripple effect. When this administration came in, everything was about 197. Now we have it over 505. It's even running towards 600 as we speak right now. So now imagine foreign funds that were borrowed in 2015, 2016, 2017, even when exchange was about 250, 260. Now we have to pay them back and we're paying back at 500 and something. That's even the black market. Even the exchange rate, the official exchange is about it's over 400. So paying that back, we are paying twice what we have borrowed. When we have, they're telling us that within the last 5 years, we have used them for investment, giving us more than 100% return. The answer ultimately is no. So the borrowing actually is not it's not bad. Even according to International Monetary Fund, they said borrowing should be about 40, should not exceed 40% of their GDP for emerging and developing economies like Nigeria. It should not be more than 40% of their GDP. And as we speak, our own borrowing has not reached 40%, about 30-something percent. It's still good, but that notwithstanding, what we should look at is debt to revenue ratio. What percentage of our revenue are we using to service so-called debt? As at first quarter of this year, the federal government is using about 98% of their revenue to fund, to service loans. That means on every 100 naira generated, we are using 98 naira to service debt. So what you have left for other infrastructure, other parts of the economy is just 2 naira. So it means therefore we still go back there to borrow. And the problem, government is the time for government to now think outside the box. I've been talking about diversification all this while, but it is time for them to look at it. A simple factor like insecurity has what they call domino effect on this or on what we're having right now. Because we have people that are into agribusiness that want to come into the economy to invest largely into the agricultural sector. But insecurity is there.
Sorry to cut you in there because policy has never really been Nigeria's problem. And the CBN, at least in the last 2-3 years, I feel like every month there's a new policy on something. So we've heard a lot from the CBN and the CBN governor. So many policies to try to save the naira. A lot of people have also argued this is actually not the CBN's job to save the naira, but we're in a situation where that is happening now. So are these policies wrong, or is the economy just at a place now where it's inevitable what's happening?
The problem with CBN is that CBN is dancing to political tune. In economy, there's what we call the trilemma, or the unholy trinity. What do I mean by that? There are 3 things that you can only pick 2 out of them. But our Nigerian economy wants to pick the entire 3. And what are they? We call them, that's what we call the trilemma. Even America economy picks only 2. China picked only 2, but we want to take the 3. One is we have what we call independent monetary authority. We want the monetary authority to be independent, free from any international or external shocks. We have what they call free flow of capital into your economy. That's the second trilemma, second leg of the trilemma. Then the third one is our fixed exchange rate. So either you have what they call fixed exchange rate, as America is, then you have independent monetary authority. Then you should not expect capital to flow into the economy. That's why you realize that when people want to start business, they don't go to America, they go to China. So because America has fixed independent monetary authority and fixed exchange rate, so the left flow of capital, if the money comes in, fine. If it doesn't come in, they don't care. But a country like America, like China, they left fixed exchange rate. They let the cost of demand and supply to determine the exchange rate. So they went for independent monetary authority, and then they also went for free flow of capital. That's why you see investment always going to China. So in the case now in Nigeria, we want to control our exchange rate. We also want free flow of capital to come in, and at the same time, we want independent monetary authority. That's why you see us having what they call multiple exchange rates. Leave the exchange rate. focus on free flow of capital into the economy, then have what we call independent monetary authority, so that external forces will not be determining what you are doing. So in that instance, you will realize that the so-called multiple exchange rate, CBN trying to manage the exchange, will not be there. All you just do is just to concentrate on the supply. This is simple economic sense. Fine, it might not be that simple in terms of exchange because of the brewery chain and what have you, that they're always trying to sabotage whatever government is doing. But putting excess supply of money of dollar into the economy. Once there is enough dollar to combat to meet up with the demand, exchange will come down. It's just like that. Okay. When the supply increases, then the one is when government when CBN tries to encourage banks to sell dollars to individuals that are traveling or that need it for legitimate reasons, so that we don't do not reduce the hold of the good chain on the economy.
Maybe very quickly, you did talk a lot about recurrent expenditure, and that seems to be the reason why yes. the wrong reasons for borrowing. But this government has also touted themselves as the infrastructure government. We are seeing trains being commissioned here and there, but a lot of people are saying, are we going to feel the effects soon enough? So I guess my point is, just to wrap up quickly, a quick word from you. Is the government headed in the right direction from what you can see, and where should they be headed?
I mean, we can try to give them thumbs up when we look at how much capital projects they are trying to embark on at the same time. But we also have to look at the lag between when all of this happens and when the impact to be felt on the economy in terms of output, productivity, economic development. Also, when people will be able to feel the impact of all of this on their pockets. So not until these projects have, these projects are already fully stimulating the economy, that we can say, okay, this is the impact that it could have. All of this, whatever thing we're going to say now, is just based on economic theory and speculation, on the hopes that if these projects, achieve the goal they are supposed to achieve, we could see an impact on economic development, especially in the areas where these projects are being embarked on. You mentioned the train project. Yes, that's a good thing, but it has to be implemented in a very, very effective and efficient manner. I mean, it's like Nigeria is getting very late to the party. When other countries are having really fast trains, we're just kickstarting the process of having a train that can move from here to Ibadan. So it's something that we really need to look at. There's still need for more aggressive investments in transport, in transportation, in manufacturing sector, in the agri sector, in trade sector. The reason why I'm emphasizing these sectors, because these sectors are job elastic. And what does this mean? It means that they can employ a lot of people. It can increase output and increase productivity. And in turn, this would stimulate sustained economic development in the country.
All right. So very quickly, 1 minute, because we need to wrap up. Politics is coming. I mean, the elections are around the corner, and we all know that once politics gets in the mix, the economy gets ignored. Are things going to get even worse?
It's surely going to get worse. And again, let me a bit digress to what we said about the rail and then what other physical infrastructure we are seeing. And I need to say that most of the things we are seeing in terms of the long-term projects or infrastructure that we have, they are basically on concession. We had when the rail Lagos was commissioned, they said they need to charge this amount of money for them to get their money back. So it's more or less like concession. So we really can't say that the money borrowed was for this particular project. So that's why we said that this economy, this government or this administration, we have a lot to tell Nigerians after the administration. What they did with all this borrowed from $12 trillion naira to $3 trillion naira is totally out of place, because we are moving to what they call debt overhang. A time where it becomes very difficult for us to borrow money for any other for viable investment, be difficult for us to get funds. So we don't need to get them because we start thinking out of the box. And a little way of doing this is when we have been talking about restructuring and restructuring, what we need is different economic restructuring. And it's very simple. The provisions are there in the constitution. Let each state and each local government or what have you control its resources and send something to the central, so that the burden on the government will not be there. How can you be borrowing funds to pay salaries? So borrowing funds to maintain House of Rep members, borrowing funds to maintain the executive. It is totally unheard of. So what we need to do is to think outside the box, increase our revenue generation, and leave the over reliance on oil. Imagine oil contributes less than 10% to our GDP. Yes, it accounts for about 90% of our revenue. That's totally nothing to write home about. Leaving the agricultural sector that has about 25% contribution to GDP, and yet not giving us enough foreign investment that we have, enough inflow of capital or inflow of dollar that we have. So government needs to think outside the box, expand the economy, increase our revenue generation mechanism, before you get out of this wood. Unless that is done, I see this moving from one problem to the other, from one it will be getting worse. That's what I can say. So government needs to come out of their thinking box and think outside the box, and let's go of so many things that they are putting in terms of exclusively this is what federal government can do. What concern government with taking road in my area when government is seated there in Abuja? When you can have even local government.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
And what have you?
Thank you very much, Dr. Adubibi, for your passion. We are going to just keep our fingers crossed, but I mean, I think a lot of what you people have said is very right, but we can only hope for the best. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.